There's that saying that I hate, which is, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Well, that's a lie. That's a total lie. The true story would be, if you love what you do, you work every day of your life. Hey friends, my name is Henrique Couto and I'm an independent filmmaker. I've made movies of all types of taste, whether it's the horror movie Babysitter Massacre or Devil's Trail, or the drama comedies like Nothing Good Ever Happens or Making Out, or even a Western like Calamity Jane's Revenge. I've directed 16 feature films at the time I'm recording this, and I've got many, many more on the way. And I've produced over 25 movies. I've honestly lost count at this time, but today's a special day because today marks the 5-year anniversary of when I got fired from my crappy job that I didn't like, with a terrible boss with no genitalia, and I went out into the world on my own, being told by many people, not that many though, but many people, that I will fail because it is impossible. And what did I do? I kind of sort of piecemealed my own business plan together. Some films being sold in a traditional distribution way, some films being crowdfunded, some films being self-distributed. There's a lot of mystery shrouded around the idea of being an independent filmmaker for a living, and there are lots of people who say you can't do it. Well, I did it. I think it's totally possible if you're willing to work for it. And that's why I'm making this video, because I wanted to take a second to just not only mention that my former boss had no genitals, but also to tell you a few things that I've learned being an independent filmmaker. First thing to keep in mind if you're going to be living freelance or being your own boss ever is feast and famine. You're going to experience both, and sometimes in such a close proximity that it's going to be confusing and really going to beat down on your spirit. But at the end of the day, you have to stand up and say, no, I'm going to keep on rocking. And some days, some months having very, very little, and some months having more than enough. You just gotta work and believe that it's gonna even out. That's the only way you can do it. Now this one is really tricky, and no one warned me about this, and this is lack of structure. When you wake up in the morning, there's nobody telling you what to do or how to do it but you, and that can be an incredible source of pride and freedom, and that can also be an incredible source of just an absolute sense of dread. It can be a source of fear. It can be a source of anxiety that can eat up your day. So one of the best things I can suggest is always, always, always be working. Even if you aren't working on something that's going to pay you right now. Be writing, be developing concepts, be collaborating with people. That's a big one I'll get to later. Always be working, because the fact of the matter is you've decided that you want to be creative for a living, and being creative isn't just a job, it is a way of life. So, with minor occasional breaks, you are going to just have to be creative all the time. So consider that anytime you are being creative, you are earning money, even if you aren't currently earning money. Because if you are creative enough, if you work hard enough, and if you make enough content that you can get out to people who will enjoy it, the money will come, or at least it has so far. I'm trying not to be super self-loathing in this, but it's not easy for me. This one is really important to keep in mind. You know everything because you really kind of know nothing. And what I mean by that is you know a lot because you've been working at your creative endeavor for so long. I've been making movies for 14 years, and I've been doing it 5 years entirely professionally. And one of the things that kind of evens the playing field is that I, who have been doing it for over 10 years, and someone who's been doing it for 30 years, we know a whole lot about the film business, but we also kind of don't know anything. Because the wind can blow away that you're not expecting, and all of a sudden everything is completely different. There have been many days in the last 5 years where I have woken up on a Monday morning, gotten a phone call, and found out my entire business was now completely different. And if you can't roll with those punches, you're not gonna be able to roll with this gig. But if you can roll with the punches and always pivot, maybe you can rock and roll it. This one is really important, and I'm gonna put it in very simple terms. In the words of a famous poet, mo money, mo problems. As my income has slowly, steadily, and not necessarily consistently grown, I have discovered that there have been more problems in the business in particular. The more cash flow you have, the more accounts you're worrying about. You're gonna have to keep on top of everything. You're gonna have to keep on top of the accounting, of the taxes, of all of that. So just keep in mind that success, especially with the way tax systems work and the way the United States works and the way most places work, success is punishable by law. So, so just be ready, because the more money you make, the more problems are going to arise, and you need to be ready for them. This one is super important. Your friends are everything. Everything. Your friends are your support system, not just financially because they might buy a movie or two, but they are willing to listen to you when you call them at 11:30 p.m. and you've decided you have to completely reinvent your entire business model right this second. They're the ones who are going to be like, let's step off this ledge and have a Diet Coke and talk about this. They're so important. Having a support system is so important. Not isolating yourself is so incredibly important. And not just because you want to have an audience, but because humans need other humans. So you're going to need people that you can rely on. But the other side of this, the unfortunate side of this also, is haters exist. If you want to find out who really likes you and who doesn't, the best thing you can do is be successful. If you have any successes at all, the people who don't actually like you are going to be waiting to throw you an underhanded compliment. They're going to be waiting to throw you a judgment that you didn't ask for out of nowhere. And do you deserve it? Probably not, but it really helps you know who your friends are, because your friends are going to be so incredibly important, because you're going to be taking on a job where you're going to be working every second of every single day. Every second of every day. There's that saying that I hate, which is, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Well, that's a lie. That's a total lie. The true story would be, if you love what you do, you work every day of your life. And it's true, you're going to have to, but you also won't be able to help it. If you love it, you're never going to be able to stop, because you'll just be so compelled to work and work and work and work. And believe me, I know, because I'm so tired. This one is really important. You are good enough. I know that sounds silly. A lot of this sounds like self-help stuff, but you are good enough to be successful. You are good enough to do something that many other people may not necessarily be able to do. I found myself, once I had started making a steady living and didn't have to work a day job of any sort, and even had to start working even less commercials and less anything other than working on films, I found myself feeling like almost a kind of survivor's guilt. 14 years ago, lots of people I knew were making movies, and a lot of them have stopped. So when other people kind of move on, their lives are what they want them to be, but from your perspective, you may feel like, they didn't get to make it, they are not with us anymore. So honestly, sometimes I feel like I'm suffering from survivor's guilt. So let that go, and remember, you are good enough to be successful. Man, this really does sound like self-help stuff, but I swear, this is what I've learned. This is what I've learned, for better or worse. Delegation is incredibly crucial. You can be a one-man band for so long before you just can't anymore. So finding good collaborators is important. Writers, editors, actors, of course. You need these collaborators, especially if you want to be sustainable and you want to keep making cool movies or whatever. I've always needed incredible collaborators, and over the last 5 years, I've really learned how valuable and fun collaboration is, because the pressure is on both of you. You get to share it, and it falls back into that thing I mentioned about how good friends are, how important friends are. I've made some of the greatest friends I've ever had in my life by collaborating on these movies. Movies are my life, and the people who share them with me, they're special. So there you go. And when you're working 90 hours a week, they're the only people you get to talk to. This one's not fun. Complacency is a real challenge, because it's very easy to become complacent, especially when things start to work, when you start to cash checks regularly, when you start to be able to buy things, you start being able to take days off or whatever, or become more comfortable. It's very easy to become complacent. So that's why you want to kind of fall back to what I said earlier about always be working, always be creating things. Make sure that creativity is not just your job, but it really has to be a way of life. You want to wake up every day and think, could I make a cool video for YouTube right now? Or should I just hang out for a minute and watch Terminator 2 again? And the answer, of course, would be to watch Terminator 2 again, but here I am. This one I touched on a little bit more, but embrace radical change, because it's coming. It's always coming. It is possible to occasionally predict where the market is going or where the business is going or whatever. It's occasionally possible to predict it, but overall, you don't want to bet on the idea that you're going to be able to know where this is all headed, because you don't. You totally don't. So you need to be ready to not only accept radical change, but embrace it. Be like, you know what, things are different, but I like it because I want to try it this way now. Because I did it the old way and now I'm going to do it this way. It's another part of me being just a really disgustingly positive person. Okay, and this is the final one, and this is the one that I cannot reiterate enough to you. Leave the house. Don't stay in your house all day doing business emails or writing every second. Leave the house, go to a show, go to the movies. You are never going to find life in your office. You're never going to find life in your living room. You have to leave the house. And I don't mean in big ways. Go to the post office yourself. Go to the store, go to a couple of music shows, or go to a restaurant downtown where you might run into some people you know, or you might run into some people who know what you do. Let yourself be a little social, let yourself be a little human. And from a business side, if people notice that you're alive, they might give a crap about what you're doing with your career, and then maybe they'll come and see a movie, and then you both win. They get amused by a movie, and you get, somebody willing to slap down a little bit of cash to see your movie. So, that one's super important. Leave the house. I say that as I almost never do, but I try. These are what I learn, not necessarily what I do. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video and celebrating in a little way with me my 5 years of independence. June 4th to me is Independent Day because it's the day I became independent from that genitalless boss I mentioned earlier. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you're curious, if you're watching this and you've never seen my work before, you can search my name, which is impossible to spell, but it's Henrique Couto. It'll be in the show notes. You can also go to henflix.com, HENFLIX.com. It'll be on the screen, and you can buy some movies directly from me and help me out. But at the end of the day, I just want you to know, if you have something that you really want to do and something in you that you need to get out, do it. And don't spend a bunch of time hating yourself. Or at least do it while you hate yourself. Trust me, you can do a lot while hating yourself if you're a good multitasker. So thanks again, and keep watching stuff. Anything, not just my stuff, just in general, and leave the house. Leave the damn house.